The Galactic Coalition's 7th Armada hung in the void like a glittering swarm of wasps, their sleek, angular hulls humming with the energy of charged plasma cannons and shimmering shield matrices. Admiral 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 of the 𝗕𝗏𝘀𝘁 Dominion watched the tactical display with satisfaction. Every ship was a masterpiece of speed and precision, each one capable of striking faster than thought. Then the human vessel arrived. It lumbered into formation, its blocky, armor-plated frame a grotesque contrast to the fluid designs of the Coalition fleet. The UEF Marathon was a relic, a brute-force construct of welded steel and primitive propulsion. Its engines burned chemical fuel, for stars' sake. A chorus of derisive clicks and chitters echoed across the comms. Asterisk, did they dig this thing out of a museum? Asterisk hissed Captain Rixus of the 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘀𝘁. I've seen asteroid miners with more grace, another commander sneered. 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘀𝘁 suppressed a flicker of irritation. The humans had been admitted to the Coalition out of political necessity, not tactical merit. Their ships were slow, their weapons outdated. What use were projectiles in an age of particle beams? Yet protocol demanded inclusion, so here they were, an embarrassment dragging down the fleet's readiness. The Marathon's captain, what was his name? Kessler, acknowledged orders with a terse "understood" and nothing more. No excuses, no boasts. Just silence. A junior sensor officer, a young Krell named Tiv, hesitated. Asterisk, Admiral, I'm reading unusual power fluctuations from the human ship. Their reactor output doesn't match their thrust profile. Asterisk. Irrelevant, 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘀𝘁 snapped. Asterisk, focus on the enemy. Asterisk. The enemy. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘀𝘁 swarm. A nightmarish force of self-replicating warships, each one a hive of adaptive intelligence. They had torn through 3 systems already, learning, evolving, rendering the Coalition's energy-based weapons useless within hours of engagement. The swarm arrived in a storm of jagged silhouettes, their hulls shifting like liquid metal. The battle erupted in flashes of searing light as plasma lances cut the dark. Coalition ships danced, fired, died. Shields flared and failed. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘀𝘁 shattered under a concentrated beam, its wreckage spinning into the abyss. And the Marathon? It moved in a straight line. No evasive maneuvers. No frantic bursts of speed. Just a steady, grinding advance, as if it hadn't noticed the apocalypse around it. A 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘀𝘁 cruiser, sleek and predatory, peeled off to finish the sluggish human ship. 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘀𝘁 almost looked away. Then the Marathon fired. No brilliant lance of plasma. No elegant disintegration field. Just a thunderclap of raw physics, a tungsten slug the size of a ground car ejected at a fraction of light speed. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘀𝘁 cruiser's shields flashed once, uselessly, before the round punched through its spine and out the other side, leaving a molten crater in its wake. Silence. What, 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘀𝘁 whispered, asterisk, was that? Asterisk. The Marathon wasn't laughing anymore. The battlefield froze for a single, disbelieving second. The Marathon's railgun shot hadn't just killed the 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘀𝘁 cruiser, it had annihilated it with contemptuous ease. No shield adaptation, no gradual weakening. Just one shot, one kill. Admiral 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘀𝘁's scales prickled. Kinetics. The humans had brought kinetics to an energy weapon duel. It was like watching a caveman club a drone out of the sky. Then the 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘀𝘁 swarm reacted. 3 more cruisers broke formation, streaking toward the Marathon with predatory grace. Plasma lances lashed out, searing across the human ship's hull, only to splash harmlessly against meter-thick armor plating. No shield flare, no desperate evasion. The Marathon absorbed the hits like a boulder weathering rain. Impossible, hissed Tactical Officer Jorix. No ship can take that kind of sustained fire without. The Marathon fired again. This time, it wasn't a single round. Its dorsal mounts rotated with mechanical precision, and a staggered salvo of railgun slugs tore through the void. The lead 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘀𝘁 cruiser disintegrated mid-turn. The second veered too late. A tungsten spear clipped its engine block, sending it spiraling into its sister ship in a bloom of white-hot debris. 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘀𝘁's claws dug into his command chair. This wasn't luck. This wasn't some primitive fluke. The humans had engineered this. Across the fleet, comms erupted in panicked chatter. Asterisk, since when do human guns ignore shields? Asterisk. Asterisk, their armor, It's not deflecting the hits, it's eating them. Asterisk. Asterisk. They're not even trying to dodge. Asterisk. The Marathon plowed forward, an unstoppable anvil to the Coalition's flailing hammers. Its weapons fired with metronomic regularity, each shot calculated, brutal, efficient. No wasted energy. No dramatic charge-ups. Just death, delivered in unassuming metal packages. Then the swarm changed tactics. A dozen smaller, faster attack craft, needle-thin interceptors designed to overwhelm point defenses, swarmed the human ship. They darted in close, too close for railguns to track, peppering the Marathon with micro-torpedoes. For the first time, the human ship moved. Not a graceful evasion. Not a desperate roll. It rotated. Giant armored shutters slid open along its flank, and a storm of tungsten flechettes erupted in a widening cone. The swarm interceptors, caught mid-strike, vaporized instantly. The Marathon hadn't even bothered aiming, it had simply made the space around it unlivable. 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁's blood ran cold. This wasn't a warship. It was a fortress with engines. And the swarm had just woken it up. The battlefield had become a slaughterhouse, and the Marathon was the butcher. Every other Coalition ship was fighting for survival, their elegant energy weapons growing weaker with each volley as the 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 adapted. But the human vessel kept killing with the same brutal efficiency as its first shot. No fancy targeting systems, no delicate maneuvers, just simple, unstoppable physics. Then the swarm made its fatal mistake. A boarding pod, sleek and needle-fast, slammed into the Marathon's hull, drilling through layers of armor before embedding itself near the ship's aft section. 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 watched on the tactical feed, torn between disbelief and grim satisfaction. The humans might have built a fortress, but even fortresses fell from within. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 breach team flooded into the Marathon, and found nothing. No crew scrambling to repel them. No panicked shouts over internal comms. Just empty corridors and the low hum of machinery. Then the lights went out. A voice, calm and synthetic, echoed through the darkness. Unauthorized biological presence detected. The first 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 died to a point-blank shotgun blast from a ceiling-mounted turret. The second was bisected by a tungsten wire that snapped taut across the hallway. The rest barely had time to scream before the ship's internal defenses activated in a storm of automated gunfire, fragmentation charges, and searing plasma cutters. 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝘁�'s tactical feed flickered with the last distorted transmission from the boarding party, a single, panicked image of a corridor-turned-killing field before the signal died. Across the bridge, stunned silence. Then the Marathon's captain finally spoke, his voice crackling over the comms. Asterisk, Admiral. Recommend you withdraw your ships to minimum safe distance. Asterisk. 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝘁 barely had time to process the words before the Marathon's primary railgun array began charging. Not the standard firing sequence, this was something else. The ship's reactor spiked to critical levels, its heat signatures flaring into the red. 𝗕𝗲𝘁, the junior sensor officer, was the first to understand. They're not just shooting single rounds, they're loading a cluster payload. The Marathon fired. Not one projectile. Not 10. 1,000. The railgun's magnetic coils unleashed a hellstorm of hypersonic shrapnel, expanding cloud of death that ripped through the swarm's formation like a scythe through wheat. Ships that had effortlessly dodged plasma fire were shredded in an instant, their adaptive shields useless against the sheer volume of metal screaming through the void. The battlefield cleared. 𝗕𝗲𝘁�'s mind reeled. This wasn't just a new weapon. It was a doctrine. While the Coalition had spent centuries refining elegant energy weapons, the humans had embraced something far simpler. If you can't miss, you don't need to aim. And right now, the Marathon wasn't missing. Silence gripped the battlefield. The swarm's remaining ships recoiled, their formations breaking as they recalculated this unforeseen variable. The Marathon drifted at the center of the carnage, its armor scorched but unbroken, railgun arrays still humming with residual charge. Then the real threat arrived. A 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 command vessel, a Leviathan 3 times the size of anything else in the swarm, emerged from the void. Its surface rippled with adaptive armor, its core pulsing with enough energy to crack a planet. The Coalition fleet sensors screamed warnings. This wasn't just another ship. This was the swarm's mind, its heart, its absolute control node. 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝘁�'s blood turned to ice. All ships, Fall back to. The Marathon moved. Not away. Forward. Its engines flared, not with the graceful arcs of coalition drives, but with the brute force thrust of chemical rockets. It accelerated in a straight, uncompromising line directly toward the 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 command ship. "They're insane," 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 breathed. "They'll be vaporized before they get within firing range." The swarm reacted instantly. 100 plasma lances converged on the human ship. The Marathon's armor glowed white-hot under the barrage, entire outer layers boiling away, but it didn't stop. It couldn't maneuver. It wouldn't evade. It simply took the punishment, its course unwavering. 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 suddenly understood. They're not trying to dodge. They can't. That's not a flaw, it's the design. The command vessel realized its mistake too late. At point-blank range, the Marathon fired its last shot. Not from its railguns. Its entire reactor. The human ship's core detonated in a controlled breach, channeling every joule of energy into a single magnetic pulse. The resulting spear of superheated metal, a projectile the size of a small building, punched through the 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 vessel's heart. Adaptive armor meant nothing. Shield matrices collapsed instantly. The command ship's core containment failed in a chain reaction that lit up the void like a newborn star. When the glare faded, the swarm was gone. Not retreating. Not regrouping. Gone. Their networked consciousness had died with their core. The Marathon hung broken in the darkness, its hull a shattered wreck, its systems dark. For a long moment, 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 thought the humans had sacrificed themselves completely. Then a single, weak transmission cut through the static. "Coalition fleet. This is Marathon Actual. Mission complete." Silence. Then, across every channel, the surviving coalition ships erupted. Not in derision, not in pity, but in something the humans might have called respect. 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 exhaled slowly, finally understanding. The Marathon had never been slow. It had been patient. The Marathon's final transmission hung in the void like a dying ember. Across the battlefield, coalition ships drifted in stunned silence, their crews struggling to process what they'd just witnessed. Then the wreckage moved. A shudder ran through the Marathon's shattered hull as emergency systems flared to life. Backup reactors, buried deep beneath layers of armor, powered up with a low, throbbing hum. The ship wasn't dead. It wasn't even done. 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁𝘁's claws tightened around his command console. "Scan that wreck. Now." 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁's sensors painted an impossible picture. "Admiral, their core containment held. They're still operational." Across the comms, whispers turned to disbelieving curses. No ship could survive that. No species was that stubborn. Then the human captain's voice returned, weaker but unmistakable. "Coalition vessels, stand by for recovery operations." A series of heavy thuds echoed through the Marathon's superstructure as it began ejecting entire sections of its outer hull. The scorched, mangled plating drifted away, revealing. "By the void," 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁𝘁 whispered. Beneath the sacrificial armor lay a second ship, smaller, leaner, but unmistakably intact. The Marathon hadn't been a single vessel. It had been a shell, a armored cocoon protecting its true form. The captain's voice gained strength as the reborn ship's engines flared. "All hands, prepare for tow. We've got work to do." 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁𝘁 finally understood the human secret. They hadn't built a warship. They'd built a ruse. And the galaxy would never mock them again. The reborn warship, sleek where its armored shell had been bulky, nimble where its predecessor had been slow, hummed with restrained power. Coalition scanners struggled to classify it, their readouts flickering between conflicting profiles. This wasn't just a survival pod or escape craft. Every line screamed purpose. 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁's voice cracked. "Admiral, their energy signature. It matches the initial attack patterns." 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁𝑁's crest flattened against his skull. The realization struck like a railgun slug. The Marathon had never revealed its true speed. Not during the approach. Not in battle. The lumbering behemoth act had been exactly that, an act. Across the void, the streamlined vessel rotated with predatory grace, its freshly exposed weapon ports glowing faintly. Not the crude kinetic launchers of before. These were something else, hybrid systems merging the Coalition's energy technology with human brutality. The comm crackled. Coalition Command, this is Marathon Actual. Ready to provide escort. The captain's voice carried new weight. We'll take point. No request for permission. No deference to protocol. Just a statement of fact from a crew that had just rewritten every rule of engagement. 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁's tactical display lit with fresh alerts. Sir, long-range sensors detect swarm reinforcements incoming. Estimated arrival in 27 minutes. 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 studied the reborn human ship, its weapons cycling through test patterns with mechanical precision. For the first time in his career, he felt the strange comfort of true tactical inferiority. All ships, he ordered, fall in behind the Marathon. The human vessel surged forward, its acceleration curve shattering every performance metric in the Coalition database. Behind it, the drifting remains of its armored shell detonated in a precisely timed explosion, scattering debris across the swarm's likely approach vectors. As the fleet reorganized in the human's wake, 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 accessed the ancient archives. The translation was rough, but the human phrase surfaced clearly. Speak softly and carry a big stick. The Marathon had finally stopped speaking. The Marathon Actual cut through the void like a blade through silk, its true speed finally unleashed. Coalition ships strained to keep formation, their systems protesting at velocities they'd never been designed to sustain. 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 watched the tactical display with something bordering on religious awe. The human vessel wasn't just faster than anything in the fleet. It moved wrong, executing maneuvers that should have shattered its superstructure, bending physics like a predator testing its leash. 𝗕𝗲𝘀's sensor console exploded with warnings. Swarm reinforcements have altered course. They're retreating. The revelation sent shockwaves through the bridge. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 didn't retreat. They adapted. They overwhelmed. Yet now their ships were folding back into the void, their signature energy trails flaring with uncharacteristic urgency. The Marathon Actual slowed just enough to let the fleet catch up, its weapons still humming at full charge. The captain's voice when it came was calm, almost conversational. "Admiral, your orders." 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 understood the test in the question. The humans had proven their worth a dozen times over, yet still deferred to Coalition command. A courtesy. A choice. He opened the fleet-wide channel. All vessels, maintain defensive formation around the Marathon Actual. We advance to secure the sector. As the fleet moved out, something unprecedented happened. The surviving swarm ships, those too damaged to escape, began powering down. Not self-destructing as their protocols dictated. Surrendering. 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 looked ill. This violates every behavioral model we have. The swarm doesn't capitulate. It doesn't comprehend the concept. A new signal cut across the comms, not human, not coalition. A 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 transmission, raw and unfiltered, repeating a single phrase across every frequency. *cease. Desist. Stand down. The Marathon Actual rotated slightly, its weapons tracking the disabled swarm vessels. For a terrible moment, 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 thought the humans would fire anyway. Then the captain spoke again, just 2 words. Prisoners secured. The bridge erupted in disbelieving chatter, but 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝘁's eyes remained locked on the viewscreen. The human ship hung motionless against the stars, its silhouette no longer mocking, no longer underestimated. Just known. The galaxy had learned its lesson. The secure channel hissed to life with a clarity that made 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝘁's crest flatten. Admiral Kessler's face resolved on screen, not the grizzled warrior the 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝘁 expected, but a sharp-featured human whose eyes carried the weight of centuries. Behind him, Earth's defense grid shimmered in holographic display, revealing layered orbital fortifications that made the Marathon look like a scout craft. "You're wondering how we did it," Kessler said without preamble. His voice carried the same calm finality as his ship's weapons. 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝘁's tactical display updated automatically, overlaying the human's image with fresh data streams. Physiological scans bounced back with impossible readings. The man's biometrics fluctuated between 20 and 200 years old. "Your ship," the 𝗕𝗲𝘁 admiral managed. "Your tactics." Kessler smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "We've been studying the swarm since first contact. Not their technology." A pause. "Their psychology." The main screen split, showing the captured 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁𝘁 vessels. Close-up scans revealed their hulls subtly reconfiguring, armor plates shifting like living tissue. "You see adaptation," 𝗕𝗲𝘀 continued. "We saw conditioning." Tiv gasped as the realization struck. "They're not intelligent. Not truly. They're reactive." 𝗕𝗲𝘀 nodded. "Like training a dog. Negative reinforcement only works until pain stops mattering." The hologram zoomed in on Earth's defenses, thousands of identical Marathon-class signatures orbiting blue oceans. We needed them to learn one new rule. The tactical display updated again, this time showing the swarm's retreat vector. Their formation wasn't scattered. It was precise. Ordered. Running directly toward the nearest black hole. 𝗕𝗁𝘂𝑐𝗿𝗄 console started pinging frantically. "Admiral! The prisoners are dash." The captured 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 ships detonated in perfect unison, their matter collapsing into precisely calculated singularity points. No debris. No radiation. Just 12 miniature black holes that winked out of existence exactly 3.2 seconds later. 𝗕𝗲𝘀 didn't flinch. Lesson learned. The channel cut abruptly. On screen, Earth's defenses powered down in perfect sequence. The message was clearer than any transmission. We never needed them. The Marathon Actual turned toward home without another word, its engines flaring once before vanishing into faster-than-light transit. Behind it, the coalition fleet floated in stunned silence, their scanners still trying to process what they'd witnessed. Vectora finally exhaled. His claws left gouges in the command console. Somewhere beyond known space, an entire civilization had just become very, very quiet.